All right, let's get right into it. When we hear about something like the doctrine of discovery, we usually think of it in terms of religion, right? Or maybe politics. But what if the whole thing started for a much simpler reason? What if it was really just a business plan? Today, we are going to look at one of the most important doctrines in history, not as a piece of theology, but as a corporate strategy cooked up to solve a massive financial crisis. And that, right there, is the big question. Because before any of this discovery stuff, there was a debt. A huge, scary debt that was about to bring the whole institution down. The answer to this one question would literally change the map of the world.
So, let's set the scene. Picture it, it's the early 1400s. The Catholic Church is, without a doubt, the richest, most powerful organization in the Western world, and yet it was somehow on the very brink of going completely broke.
Yep, you're seeing that right. 1.5 billion with a B. How on earth does that happen? Well, think decades of nonstop wars, ridiculously expensive building projects, and oh yeah, the chaos of having 3 different guys all claiming to be the real pope at the same time. Each one with his own fancy court and his own crazy expenses. The whole operation was bleeding money.
So things were bad. I mean, really bad. The bankers were literally at the gates, wanting their money back. The church was just like any other business on the verge of collapse. It needed a cash infusion, and it needed it yesterday. It was time for a pivot. A big one.
And this is where things get both kind of brilliant and absolutely horrifying. The church realized it had one major asset that wasn't a building or a pile of gold. It was an idea. Its self-proclaimed authority to legally grant ownership over any land in the world.
You see, they already had this legal concept just sitting there called terra nullius. It basically just meant nobody's land. You know, a territory that wasn't already ruled by a king they recognized. It was just a blank spot on the map.
So they took this dusty old legal idea and they turned it into a product. All the unknown parts of the world suddenly became a massive futures market. The church figured out it could sell the rights to whatever was out there, lands it didn't own, had never seen, and in most cases didn't even know existed. It was, for all intents and purposes, the birth of speculative imperialism. Okay, so you've got this wild new product. How do you sell it? Well, you package it up. You build a corporate structure that honestly looks incredibly modern. You create a global franchise. The business model itself was almost elegant in its simplicity. You've got the Pope acting as the global CEO. He grants exclusive franchise territories to his business partners, kings and queens in places like Portugal and Spain. Those franchisees then pay to send out expeditions to, well, extract wealth. And that wealth, gold, silver, you name it, flows right back up the corporate ladder, paying off that debt and making everybody rich. And if you want the smoking gun, the proof that this was all business, you just have to read the fine print in the actual contracts, the Papal Bulls. This little line shows up over and over again. It says, you can go claim whatever you find unless another Christian monarch already has his flag planted there. I mean, come on, what is that? It's not theology. That's a non-compete clause, plain and simple. It's there for one reason, to protect exclusive franchise territories. It kept the franchisees, Spain and Portugal, from stepping on each other's toes and starting a price war. But there was a catch. Finding gold and silver is tough. It's slow, and it wasn't bringing in money fast enough to pay off a debt of that size. The business model needed a new product line, a more liquid asset. And this is where the entire strategy takes its darkest turn.
Just listen to these words. This comes directly from a papal bull given to the King of Portugal. This is a direct, top-down authorization to conquer people and enslave them forever. You have to understand, this wasn't just giving them permission to be violent. This was a financial directive.
In order for the balance sheets to work, they had to legally and financially reclassify people. Human beings went from being, well, human beings to being movable goods. A whole new asset class was invented right then and there. This wasn't about religion. This was a cold, hard liquidation strategy. It was about turning people into inventory so the church could pay its bills. So let's just follow the money for a second. All this extracted wealth, the gold, the silver, and the value of human lives, it all flows back to Europe. A big chunk, of course, goes to the crown, the franchisee. Another slice goes to the big banks like the Medici, who put up the venture capital for the trips. And of course, a tidy percentage goes straight to the church to finally pay down that massive debt. Now, it's easy to think, okay, that's all horrible, but it's ancient history. Here's the terrifying part. That business model never really went away. It just changed its clothes. It evolved. In fact, It became the basic operating system for our entire global economy.
The paperwork just got passed along. First, it was popes granting rights to kings. Then, in the 1600s, kings started granting those same powers directly to corporations, like the Dutch East India Company. That morphed into state-sponsored colonialism. And today, it's the same logic you see in international resource extraction deals and land privatization. The name on the letterhead changes, but the game is exactly the same.
I mean, just look at this formula. It's identical. Step 1. An authority grants rights to land and resources that it doesn't actually own. Step 2. Someone else goes and extracts the wealth. Step 3. The profits are used to service some kind of debt. That's it. That's the program that's been running in the background of our world for over 500 years.
So here's the bottom line. If you peel away all the fancy religious language, all the talk of divine right, what are you left with? You're left with a financial document. You're left with a desperate debtor selling off assets they didn't own, other people's homes and other people's bodies, just to stay afloat. The doctrine wasn't a proclamation. It was an invoice.
And this is the final bill. The solution to a 15th century financial crisis was billed to the rest of the world. And in so many ways, it's a debt we are all still paying off today.
But this incredible business model had one fatal flaw. The ultimate authority, the CEO, was the Pope. So what happens when new competitors show up on the scene, like Protestant England or the Netherlands, and they completely reject the Pope's authority? They still wanted in on the action. They wanted the colonies, they wanted the plunder, but they couldn't exactly use a legal permission slip from an institution they called the Antichrist. So how do you keep the loot when you have to rewrite the paperwork? We'll dig into that next time.